FIRE. It is the new movement sweeping the nation. And the question that we're going to ask, and hopefully you will come to an answer on your own, is can you retire early by using the FIRE principles? So we're going to discuss the FIRE movement. We're going to discuss what it is, all the ins and outs, and should you be part of it or not. So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around. That is what we're going to discuss. Now, if you are new here, welcome. We're happy to have you. I am Lisa. I have been a financial advisor for almost 14 years now. I can't believe time is flying past, just like this year is going so fast. I can't believe we're almost at 2025. And I help people get to financial freedom as quickly as possible. That is what people want, and that is what I help them try to accomplish. So let's get started. Now, if you see me looking off to the side, I'm looking at my notes. So that's what I'm doing, just as an FYI. All right, so what is the FIRE movement? The FIRE movement is really a path to financial independence aimed at retiring early. So the idea is the traditional retirement age is age 65, and people who are in the FIRE movement want to retire early. That is a general gist. There are definitely different paths people take in order to get to the FIRE movement, but we will get through that in a second. And the main concept is to save and invest aggressively. That is usually the means that people use in order to get to that FIRE movement. And what age do people want to retire at? It just depends on some people. Some people are like 55 is good, I'm good with that. Some are at 30, some are at 45. It really just depends on what they're trying to accomplish, what feels good for them, how much they hate their job, and all those different things. So, and people say, well, who is the FIRE movement for? Well, essentially the FIRE movement is for anybody who wants to become financially free. And not just that, not just financial freedom. When I talk about financial freedom, it's really about finding that place where you no longer have the worries of finance on your shoulder. You're able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, without any kind of restrictions when it comes to your finances. However, FIRE movement, most people want to retire early. It's not like they want to find another passion or they want to have choices in life, which a lot of my clients do. They want to get to financial freedom, but they might want to continue to work. Maybe they like working. Maybe it's so that they can pursue a new career. Maybe, those kind of things. So financial freedom is different for everybody. Traditionally, though, the FIRE movement people are the people who want to retire early and just not work, or maybe work very part-time. So that's traditionally who the FIRE movement's for. Now, there are key principles when it comes to the FIRE movement. Frugality means living below your means a lot of the times when you're getting ready for that time of being able to retire early. Savings rate, the savings rate for people is very high. Often that goes along with frugal living. You don't necessarily see some like hardcore FIRE movement people going on a cruise or, that kind of thing. They are really trying to save very aggressively, so they have a very low standard in terms of how much that they need to live every month. And they tend to be kind of frugal, which is okay. Investing, a lot of them, really try to maximize their investments. Does that mean they have to be risky investors? No, but it does mean that they try to make sure that they're investing aggressively in terms of the nature that they're investing, because they know rate of return will help them get to their goal faster than just saving alone. Where they invest, they might invest in the stock market, they might invest in a business that they're going to sell. It just depends on what their real estate is another area that people do this with. It just depends on their personal preference and also what fits with them best. And budgeting, really the importance of tracking expenses. This is important. This is a habit that's very important, not just to get to the FIRE movement, but when you're in retirement at that point too, because if you just go crazy and start spending like a crazy person because you've spent 20 years trying to retire early, now you could really screw up your plan if you haven't considered that option. So budgeting is a good habit to have in general, just because when you retire early, every day is a Saturday. Saturdays are the most expensive days of the week. And, essentially people can go a little crazy. So having a good budgeting muscle helps you when you get to that retire early phase as well, because instead of saving for 20, 30 years of retirement, we might be saving for 40, 50 years of retirement, depending on where we're at. And so that's the thing, is that you just have to be really aware of what you're spending. So it's always good to have an idea of what you're spending and keep track of that anyway, whether it's budgeting or just being, a conscious spender or aware of your finances. So there are types of different FIRE people. So lean FIRE are people with a minimal lifestyle or low expenses. So you've heard, and I believe there's a bunch on YouTube too, of these people who, have a trailer, they live in a trailer, and they live on very minimal expenses, and this is the way they want to live their life. That is not how I would choose to spend my retire early. Nothing wrong with how they chose it. That's just not my style. And some people, that's totally good. They just want to be out in nature. They want to be exploring the world, and that's what they want to do. Fat FIRE is more on the very comfortable, enjoying life, bigger lifestyle, kind of higher expenses kind of retirement. So that is fat FIRE. So lean FIRE, fat FIRE, makes sense. Barista FIRE is what they call part-time FIRE, right? Part-time retiring early. So means, maybe instead of working at your corporate job, you're a barista someplace for a couple days a week, and that helps with some expenses, helps keep your mind going, gives you some kind of purpose in life, but you're not in that high stress job that is burning you out. I believe a lot of this FIRE movement really started from burnout. People are just tired of working, and they burn out in some respects. So I think that some of that was a cause of this. And then Coast FIRE, which is minimal work, savings grow until retirement without any additional contributions. So they're kind of coasting along, right? That one's a little bit more unclear. I couldn't find too much information, but the others kind of made more sense to me. All right. So let's say you're saying, well, this sounds pretty good. I kind of want to join this FIRE movement. How do I get started? Obviously, the first thing that you would do is look at your expenses. Again, I have said this a million times. There are plenty of videos for you to take a look at that I talk about this, where budgeting doesn't have to be your old friendly Excel spreadsheet that you sit there and you're like, oh no, I spent $102 rather than $100 on this. That's not necessarily what it is. But you need to know where you stand when it comes to your current expenses, your spending style, that kind of thing. That just means consciously being aware and taking a look at what you're spending your money on. It might mean for a month or two actually putting, your budget down and writing, seeing what you're spending. I always say if you're going to do something like that, look at 3 months at least, just because there's some quarterly expenses that jump in there. Or you might even want to look at a half year, because if you're paying insurances for some people are every half year, right? Property tax, if you don't have it impounded in with your mortgage, that might be, on a biannual basis or annual, depending on what you do. So just make sure that you're kind of keeping in mind those other expenses that kind of pop out of nowhere, once a year. Setting clear goals. So knowing what financial independence means to you. Again, I always suggest having a really clear idea of what your best day would look like. Does that mean you're shopping? Does that mean that you're walking on a beach someplace? Does that mean you're over in Europe? You're spending your time in Spain? What does that mean for you? And I think that that's the most important thing to understand, is what is your ideal day look like? And this is not a time to self-judge or to paint a picture that's not realistic. I know we have these kind of, especially now, we have these concepts of like, what we're supposed to be like. We're supposed to enjoy nature. We're supposed to not be materialistic, all this stuff. But if that's not your reality, that's not what you're going to do. And then you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're lying to yourself, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, because honestly, if you're lying to yourself, then you're not setting yourself up for success. I mean, that's definitely self-sabotage, and you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble, because maybe the first 10 years out of retirement, in retirement is fine, but now we hit a snag in year 12, you've lost all of your valuable assets in terms of work. So you might have to go get a job you hate or don't want to do or whatever. So just keep that in mind, that being very realistic of actually where your expenses are and actually what you want when you retire early is very important. So whatever work that is, journaling, listening to meditation, whatever that is going to help you get out of your own way of trying to fit in to what society has told us is the right thing to do and how we should be versus what you actually want to do is going to be key. Cut unnecessary spending. Obviously, that's very easy to say, but once you start looking at your expenses, start curbing some of those things. Some people, it's going to be curbing it down, right? Just trying to stop the excessive spending. Maybe you're buying too many groceries and throwing them away and eating out. That's some area you could focus on. Maybe it's, limiting Amazon purchases at first. And for other people, it's going to be cold turkey, like that. Shut it off. It's like quitting smoking, right? Or quitting sugar. You just stop smoking. And you go through the withdrawals and you go through the hard time, and then it's better. I can't tell you that I think one is better than the other. I know I don't do well with the extreme, like just quit thing. But that doesn't mean that won't work for you. So just figure out which way is better. But make sure if you're doing it slow and steady, you actually are doing it slow and steady. You're not just making one change and be like, this is going to change my entire life. That's not realistic. Obviously, I hope you know that. You probably do. I'm probably preaching to the choir there. Increase income can be another way you can do that. So a side hustle, maybe you're doing Uber Eats or, Lyft, or you're doing, Instacart, or, you're putting in some extra time at the office to get some overtime, whatever that is, getting some extra income in really can help in those places. And then invest wisely. Make sure your investments align with your goals, but also with your risks, right? Because you can actually hurt your progress forward if you're in too risky of an investment and then you make a bad mistake through fear. And that can pull you back more than anything else can, honestly. All right. So what are the pros and cons to this, right? Well, I think the pros are pretty obvious. Pros to the FIRE movement is I get to retire early. Yay, right? I don't have to work anymore. Fantastic. Every day is a Saturday. I love Saturdays. Like, that's your pro, right? I mean, I don't think we have to go through a ton about the pros. I think people know why. But there are some challenges and concerns when it comes to the FIRE movement that I don't think are discussed enough. One is sustainability. As retirees come to me, their biggest question is, am I going to run out of money? Right? That is always the number one concern. And like I said, that retiree might have 30 years in retirement. Let's say they retired 65, they lived to 95, 30 years, plus or minus, right? If you're retiring at 40 and you live to, let's say 90, maybe you don't even make it to 95, but let's say 90, that's 50 years in retirement. That is a long time to sustain. Are you going to be able to sustain that? And not just that, but the bigger concern I have is that we change so much as we go through life. I will tell you, I am definitely not the same person I was when I was 30, even 35. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We just change, develop, and grow. And priorities change, Things are different for us. And you have to keep that stuff in mind. You are still going to be a growing, viable person in retirement. And so you just have to remember that when you're kind of looking at your numbers and saying, do I have wiggle room in here to make shifts if I need to? And I don't think most people do. I think they hit their number and they're like, I'm out. And I think that can be a problem. Health insurance obviously is a big issue. How are you going to pay for health insurance? What is health insurance going to cost? All that stuff. So make sure you really look into, there's websites, you just type in Google and you can get tons of websites out there that can help you kind of figure that out. But you have to be realistic, and you also have to be aware that the price that you're paying now, let's say you're 40, the price that you're paying now is going to be different than what you're paying at 60. It's just going to be, and you have to calculate that into your budget. Also, lifestyle sacrifices. You're going to be making a huge sacrifice until you get to retirement. What kind of sacrifices are you also going to make in retirement? Are you never going to get to travel because retiring early and getting out of corporate was more important to you than going traveling? Are you going to change your mind on that? Which is possible, right? So obviously, a lot of people have done this FIRE movement and are very happy and are successful and have done very well with everything. But you just want to make sure that it's right for you and you've thought about everything before you do it, because it's a lot harder to get back in to the working world when you've thought you were in retirement. Plus, there's a mental component that you feel like you failed. You're a loser. You failed because you didn't succeed in the FIRE movement, and all these people on YouTube did. Well, I have if they're on YouTube and they're advertising anything or they have links that they get some commission, they're making money. So they're not completely retired, right? I think it was is it Mr. Beast? I don't know, I might get this wrong. Everybody says, oh, he retired early. Yeah, but he's making money. Was it Mr. Beast or Mr. Mustache? It might be Mr. Mustache, actually. I might be getting that wrong. But he's got a very viable business and he makes a lot of money now. So yeah, he retired early, but he's now working because he's creating stuff that you enjoy watching, So just keep that stuff in mind, that the YouTube stuff, while I'm talking to you on YouTube, is a little bit of a facade sometimes. So you gotta keep yourself in check and make sure that influencers aren't influencing you the wrong way as well. And do an honest self-assessment. So, FIRE is more than just a financial plan. It's a lifestyle choice for many people. And make sure you are aware of that, because it seems all glitzy and stuff, but at the same time, it's a journey. So I'd love to hear more of your journeys. Feel free to reach out if you have anything you'd like to share on that. And, the biggest question is, how much are you willing to sacrifice to get to this goal of not working by a certain age? And is it more realistic to say, I would like to hit that financial independence, financial freedom point, and then make a decision of if I want to work anymore or not? Maybe I just want to shift gears. And I think that's where you come into it more than, 45, I'm out. It might be more of a journey of getting yourself to that financial independence point. And then just saying, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to change? Do I want to make a career change? Do I want to open my own business? Do I want to take more time off and volunteer more? What's going to make you happy? That's the ultimate thing. Is you've got to focus on ultimately what is going to make you happy and what is not making you happy right now. That's what life's about. That's what money is supposed to be for. Oh, I could go on and on. I won't do that though. All right, so with that, just remember, FIRE has its pros and its sparkly pros that everybody wants to look at, but there are challenges associated with it. So make sure you do your homework. And thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you found something enjoyable. I hope you learned some things. Do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And until next time, make sure that you are keeping the fire inside of you going when it comes to your financial plan. Take care. Bye-bye.